Coming up on today's show, I want to look at the updated depth charts for Denver coming out of the NFL draft and look at which rookies may start as early as week 1 and who's going to have a large role in 2025. So let's jump into today's video by doing a little bit of history first, because I do think it's important to look at the past to have a better understanding for what we can expect this upcoming season. So if you look back at last year's rookie class, here are the top 5 rookies in terms of snaps, and then you can see how many games they started. Now, Bo Nix played every single game. He took pretty much every single snap except for a few at the end of the game when they were in victory formation. But it just goes to show that while we like to believe these rookies have huge roles right from the jump, Bo Nix was the only guy that started more than 10 games last year. He was the only guy that started more than half the games last year. You can go back a year before in 2023, and it's even a little bit more barren. Now, Denver did not have a first-round pick this year, so understandable that without a first, there may not be a rookie with a huge role in year 1. So I decided, all right, well, let's keep going back a little bit in Sean Payton's history, and you can go back to his time in New Orleans as well. We can look at his last 2 seasons with the Saints and the role those rookies had for him. Back in 2021, day 2 pick, Paulson Adebo, right, round 2 or 3. He started every single game for the Big Easy. But after that, you can see a decent drop-off. So, I mean, even first-rounder Peyton Turner, who got injured, missed some time, he only played 143 snaps. In 2020, Cesar Ruiz, he played about half of the season, about half of the snaps that year, started a little more than half of the season. So, it is not this slam dunk of the post-draft hype clears the way for all these guys to have big roles right from the jump. No, it usually takes a little bit more time than that. Now, every single Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, Diana Rossini and Jacob Robinson from The Athletic sent out this great email blast that has a bunch of really good information in it. And they sent one a week ago talking about how often do rookies start. So here are some of the facts and figures. I'll just read it off to you. Going off of 2024's draft, 87.5% of the 257 rookies played at least one snap. That's the entire NFL draft class in 2024. 87.5% played at least one snap. By the way, only 10.7% of the UDFAs last year played a single snap. Now, of the 87.5% who played at least one snap, about half of them started at least one game. That's 149 rookies last year starting one game out of 257, which means in 2024, the starters across all 32 teams, 10.5% of them were rookies. That was the third highest number. The top of the food chain is guys entering year 3 or in year 3, making up 10.9%. And then it's a very kind of just gradual decline as you get older in your career. It's not some, big drop off there. So just some facts and figures for what to expect out of rookies going off of last year and Sean Payton's tendencies with the youngins. So now, let's get into the updated depth chart. Some of these did not change at all. Like quarterback didn't change at all. We know those quarterbacks are in this order going in and out of the draft. So moving along here, what about, let's say, running backs? Running back, I'm going to put RJ Harvey at RB2. I think it is important to differentiate the depth chart going into, say, OTAs, minicamp, and training camp versus the depth chart going into week 1. And I think as of now, RJ Harvey is RB2. Does not mean he can't earn that job, that starting role throughout training camp. But Bo Nix did not take the field as a rookie for the first time in OTAs and in mandatory minicamp with the first team offense, right? He was towards the end of the line, and they got a rotation going, and about 2/3 of the way through training camp, he was announced as the starter. But I don't believe that pick number 60, RJ Harvey, is just going to get a fast pass and go right to the front of the line from the start to be this team's starting running back. I often feel that coaches tend to have a little bit more of a concern with tossing a rookie running back out there because we usually think about their job as one-dimensional. Get the ball, run with the ball. There's also the whole, pass protecting side of the job, right? That's a decent chunk of the pie that we tend to overlook. And coaches usually want to have a little bit more trust in their young players out there to block and protect. And so I feel that Harvey's going to show that. And I think he's capable of doing that, but from, a mid-early May perspective, I don't think he's going to just all of a sudden go ahead of guys who've been doing it for a little bit longer. So I'm going to put Harvey at RB2. I do think he has enough skill to walk in and be ahead of like Blake Watson at UDFA, Audric Estime last year, but you can even flip-flop those two. I'd be more inclined to put Estime at RB2 and Harvey at RB3 than Harvey at RB1 and Jaleel at RB2. Now, things can change, of course, throughout training camp, but this is my updated depth chart as of today. All right, let's move along to the next position group I want to peek at here. But first things first, who's going to have more rushing yards in 2025? I think by the end of the year, RJ Harvey. I think by the beginning of the year, it's going to be Jaleel McLaughlin. And if I sound, insane for saying that, quick reminder, Nick Chubb, very early second-round pick, did not start early in his rookie year. Derrick Henry did not start early in his rookie year. So remember that rookies, well, right after the draft, they seem like the bee's knees and everyone loves them and they're perfect and they're all going to be Pro Bowlers. There's a little bit of a humbling, pie that gets served early on in training camp and things like that. On to the wide receivers now. The notable addition here from the draft is rookie Pat Bryant out of Illinois, a third-round draft pick. I'm going to put Bryant right behind Courtland Sutton on the depth chart, and I think it's important to remember that we're not just looking at who's the top 3 or 4 receivers. We're looking at, hey, who can be a backup X receiver, right? If Sutton were to go down and miss a little bit of time, who is someone that can fill his role on the offense? I don't think that a speedster, say like Marvin Mims, but even though Marvin Mims could play X outside, I don't think that's really the angle we should be looking at here. We should be looking at if Sutton were to miss time, who can run his route tree well? And Bryant, to me, would probably do the best job at that, looking at the guys on the bench right now. So I don't think Bryant's going to be a wide receiver 1, 2, or 3 in a traditional sense, but I do think that him and Troy Franklin, they're going to be some of the first guys off the bench with a little bit of situational awareness applied to it, depending on what they need from a receiver coming in off the bench. On to the tight ends. No real addition. I mean, you got Caleb Lohner, the 7th-round pick, but he goes to the back of the line, so not a surprise here, I believe. Offensive linemen now. Denver did not draft an offensive lineman. They did get Clay Webb, who was a really, big UDFA signing, a former 5-star recruit, played 3 years at Georgia, ended up transferring to Jacksonville State, and played well there, but there are some character concerns with a federal lawsuit standing out against him right now due to a hazing incident, allegedly, from high school. So Clay Webb as a player, a lot to like. Clay Webb as a person, you've got some red flags that you have to sort through here. But if there's one name that's going to make some noise in the depth chart, it would be him to maybe push for a starting center gig. Because I don't think Luke Wattenberg has that completely sewed up. Like, he is someone that is going to be competing with everyone else on that depth chart for a starting job at the center role. All right, let's move on to our next position group here for the Broncos. We've run through the offense. Now let's peek at the defense, starting with the defensive line, the big guys on the interior. Zach Allen, DJ Jones, John Franklin Myers all remain your starters. The addition here is Savion Jones, 3rd-round pick out of LSU. He's got good size, good frame. I mean, nearly 6'8", 280 pounds. Didn't have a ton of production last year for the Tigers. 4.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles. I do think that we're going to see him have a good starting spot in that rotation where he's going to be one of the first few guys off the bench. I just don't believe the veteran depth behind Zach Allen and even a little bit of John Franklin Myers is so fierce that Jones from day one with his size can't go in there and really compete and push to be that second guy off the bench to give Zach Allen a breather on like 1st and 10 when they're likely going to run it. On to the linebackers now. We've got a lot of faces here, a couple of new ones. Dre Greenlaw going into that starting role after coming over from San Francisco. Singleton returning from that ACL injury. Drew Sanders backing up Greenlaw and Singleton. I think he's the first linebacker off the bench if something were to happen to those two. I've got Q Robinson, though, a fourth-round pick from Alabama, coming in at outside linebacker number 5 behind Tillman and Jonah Elliss. I think that he is more of a developmental project. I've seen special teams tossed out for him. I don't have big expectations for him in year one. I don't think, unless there's an injury, we're going to see his name or number on the field very often. By the way, quick reminder, just a PSA, Drew Sanders exists. I know that we've kind of forgotten about him because he didn't play a lot his rookie year. He unfortunately popped his Achilles, right around this time last year in mid-April. So he missed the first half of the 2024 season, but he's going to play inside linebacker. Denver's tried him out at inside, outside, back to inside. It's hard to keep up with everywhere he's been, but I think they want to see him play inside and have some blitz packages designed up for him because he was so good at rushing the quarterback at Arkansas. Let's look at the corners now, all right? I'm going to put Jahdae Barron at CB 3. I'm not going to have him start. And that's where things get a little bit interesting here. He's probably going to back up Jaquan McMillan in the slot, but if an injury were to happen to PS2 or to Riley Moss, I think he'd be the first one off the bench to go and fill in for them at outside. But as of now, despite Barron being this team's first-round draft pick, and I'm not knocking the guy as a player, I'm just playing the odds here. And the odds tell me rookies don't start and have as big of a role as we often think they will early on. So for the way McMillan's played the last 2 years, I'm not going to place Barron ahead of him at that starting nickel job. I think it's going to be McMillan's job to lose. And when his contract, I think, is up after this year, then they can easily replace him with Barron and let him walk in free agency and not give him a big contract because he's earned himself a nice payday the next time he's an unrestricted free agent. So for the time being, I like Barron. I think he's a very talented player, but I think we can all agree going into the draft, no one had negative things to say about Denver's nickel. So why are we now going to manufacture cons against Jaquan just to get Barron on the field sooner to make the pick feel better after it being a little bit of a mixed bag of nuts when you passed on Omari and Hampton? So that's what I've got for Barron as of now, a corner off the bench who I expect to see on the field at some point this year, but I don't believe it's going to be as early as week 1. So let me know. Do you think the 20th overall pick out of Texas is going to start for Denver right out of the gates? Give me a yes or give me a no. I'm going to say no. I mean, we like to think that first rounders are always going to be day one starters, but that's not always the case. So for someone that's a little bit on the smaller end, there might be a little bit of a learning curve when he plays against some bigger receivers in the NFL. All right, before we move on to the next position group, quick reminder, if you want to get a Jahdae Barron jersey, go to chatsports.com/Barron. I put that link in the comments and description of today's video. It's a great way to get yourself a brand new Broncos jersey while also supporting the channel as well. So use our link, chatsports.com/Barron, to get yourself a brand new Denver Broncos jersey. After the corners, we got to look at the safeties now. Here's how I think things are going to shake out. We got Brandon Jones and Talanoa Hufanga starting. Those are some no-brainers right there. As for the two safeties off the bench first, P.J. Locke and I think Devaughn Vele, who was awesome in the preseason last year, are going to be your first two safeties off the bench. Usually teams take only 4 safeties. Sam Franklin, they signed in free agency from the Carolina Panthers, is a possibility to make that 4-man rotation. Maybe Denver goes 5 deep, but as of now, those are the 4 that I'm going to proceed with. And then last but certainly not Actually, it may be least. Yeah. It's special teams. Sorry, guys. Let's be honest here. If they're not least, who is last? I don't know. Yikes. I'm going to put Matt Hack, the punter they signed in free agency, as the tentative starter. They drafted, what's his name? Jeremy Crenshaw, right? Out of Florida, round 6. He was the number 1 punter in this class, and I felt like Denver needed an upgrade at that spot after trying to find some kind of consistency after letting Sam Martin go, Corliss Waitman, Riley Dixon. Neither punter just, completely being a dominant, field flipper. So I'll go with Matt Hack because he does have the connection to Darren Rizzi, the special teams coordinator, as your initial starter. But whenever you get a special teams competition, they rotate every other play. So it's really 1A, 1B, right? It's going to be Matt Hack for the first series, then it's going to be Crenshaw for the next. They're going to go back and forth. This happens more often with kickers, but for now, I'll give it to the veteran. All right, before we sign off, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Really appreciate everyone who hangs out with us all the way to the end of the video. We're going to be live in a few hours, so make sure you come back then, and I'll see everyone in a few short hours.